Indie VTubers and VTuber fans, it's time to take matters into our own hands. It's time to demand better from the VTuber industry. This is part 2 of my video on VTuber Agency red flags. In part 1, I talked about how there are many red flag VTuber agencies out there. You can watch both videos in no particular order, but they definitely complement one another, so please find the time to go back and watch the other video if you haven't. I made that video to help assisting VTubers and fans alike understand what makes good and bad VTuber agencies. But what if I told you that I believe that even the good agencies out there are actually a bad idea for creators in the majority of cases? In this video essay, I will talk about the main differences between agency and indie VTubers and why VTuber agencies are not a good fit for the majority of creators. But first, what is the difference between a quote corpo or agency VTuber and an indie VTuber? A lot of people have thrown around the terms corpo and indie when talking about VTubers, so I want to clarify exactly how I am using these terms. There's a lot of gray in-betweens in the semantics of these terms, but for the sake of brevity and my sanity while editing this video, here are my definitions of agency VTuber and independent VTuber. Agency VTuber. My definition of an agency VTuber is a VTuber who works under a company. When a VTuber signs with a VTuber company or talent agency to create content for the VTuber company, they become an agency VTuber. These VTubers typically exchange their content creation services, some of their freedom, and a portion of their channel income for a company's brand recognition and support. They are legally bound to a company's rules, regulations, and content schedule via contract. These VTubers are also typically beholden to a non-disclosure agreement that prevents them from leaking any of the inner workings of the company to the public. In exchange for the VTubers' agreement to their terms, the company typically provides their talent with a VTuber model, tracking software, and streaming equipment. Agencies also typically have managers, a marketing team, and advertisement campaigns. Because a brand is behind them, these VTubers tend to have a better way of gaining sponsorships, but resultantly have a lot more restrictions on what they are able to make content on. The brands and characters of these VTubers are predetermined and based on market research rather than tailored to individuals, with a few exceptions. Agencies typically own the IPs of all their characters and rarely transfer IPs to anyone else without an IP buyout. This includes anything the VTuber does while they are affiliated with the agency, including streams, art, or music they produce in their time affiliated with the agency. The ultimate goal of a VTuber agency is to grow in company value and expand outreach. And if they are a publicly traded company, they will also focus on increasing the value of their company's stocks. Independent VTuber. My definition of an independent VTuber is a VTuber who runs their own operations. They are their own boss and are not beholden to any company higher-ups. Even if they register their channel as a business or hire a team to help with their content, at the end of the day, they are in control of their own intellectual property and make decisions for their own channel. Their models can be tailor-made to fit their budget, preferences, needs, and content style. Independent VTubers naturally own their own characters, art, music, and streams that they put out into the world, and they decide what to do with their content. They have all the freedom to rebrand whenever they want, upgrade their setup as they see fit, but they must fund everything from the PC to the model to the content. Growth is often slower due to lack of resources, advertising, and brand recognition in the beginning. This can also make sponsors and brand collaborations more difficult to find for indies. Every independent VTuber has their own goals for their content. These VTubers can be as career-minded or hobby-minded as they want, and they can take breaks or quit whenever they would like. Since an independent VTuber represents no one but themselves, complete freedom of expression is also unique to them. With those definitions out of the way, we can say that for the sake of this video, a VTuber agency is a talent agency that produces or adopts VTuber brands. An independent VTuber group is a group of independent VTubers that voluntarily make content together with no business tycoons above them calling the shots. VTuber groups can still hire managers, editors, and even form an LLC, but at the end of the day, they own their own content and answer to no one, besides Google and Amazon raccoon, of course. In the spirit of supporting independent creators, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Experience the enchanting beauty of Japan's sakura blossoms under the moonlight with Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co.'s special Yozakura boxes. This month's Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. feature a beautifully designed Yozakura themed box filled with a delightful assortment of sakura inspired treats, inviting you to immerse yourself in the Cherry Blossom Festival. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box. You will get up to 20 exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks, including Japanese instant ramen and drinks that are only available in Japan for a limited time. This month's Tokyo Treat theme is Sakura Matsuri Snack Fest. My personal favorites from this month's Tokyo Treat box were the Koikeya Nori Shio chips, Sakura Karinto, and curry senbei crackers. That's a lot of snacks. Let's see, what is this friend? It's by Glyco. Glyco's a good company. Dosu Bisco. Okay, I'm gonna stop trying to read Japanese. Grab a piece. Oh, why is it so cute? Oh my gosh. Look, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's got like a pattern. My 120p webcam can't handle it. It reminds me of the Japanese erasers I used to collect that look like little food. Let's taste it. Yeah, this is strawberry cream. Kind of tastes like a Pocky. Next, this week's drink. Acerola cherry juice. All right, let's see if I can open it. Every time.
3 hours later.
I got it. Okay. Alright, let's see if I can pour this without spilling it everywhere. I've never had cherry juice. I love cherries though. Here's our cherry juice. Wow. That's really nice. It's tart, but refreshing. Sakura Co. is a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box that supports local Japanese snack makers. Each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. This month's Sakura Co. theme is a Night of Sakura. My personal favorite snacks from this month's Sakura Co. box were the strawberry manju, Sakura Hoten Tetra, and the strawberry butter senbei. Next one is Sakura Cream Cookie by Itogawaya. That is the featured store right here. But look at this packaging, it's so pretty. I've never had a senbei cream cookie, but the presentation is top notch. Yeah, wow, that's really nicely done. Well printed. And then we've got a cream filling. You guys ready for the crunch? Very yummy. Lovely, delicate. This might be a bad comparison, but it's like a fortune cookie Oreo. Yeah, that is really good with the tea, because this is quite sweet and that cuts down on the sweetness. Japanese people really know how to snack. Here we go. It's got the sakura coating on the outside and the karinto. This one's gonna be crunchy too. You ready? It's like caramel corn, but with a rice base instead of popcorn base. It's got that burnt sugar deliciousness. Wow, for such a small bite, there's a lot of flavor, but it's really yummy. Oh my gosh. All these snacks pair perfectly with the Yozakura special blueberry hibiscus tea. I drank the tea in this month's tableware item, the adorable Sakura glass cup. The booklets included in this month's boxes teach you all about Japanese culture surrounding Sakura festivals currently taking place all over Japan. Treat yourself or a loved one to a box this Yozakura season. Thank you so much to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Use code YAMALBAT to receive $5 off your first Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co. order. Now, back to the video. In my personal opinion, I don't think joining a VTuber agency is a good experience for 90% of creators. I know this is a bold claim, but hear me out. So, who are the 10% of creators who should consider joining a VTuber agency? Streamers who are interested in making a career in voice acting or idol activities in the entertainment industry, and who already have a few years of experience in content creation. They must be emotionally mature enough to handle professional business relationships and mentally strong enough to be able to handle an incredibly demanding content schedule for at least a year. These creators also must be assertive enough to advocate for themselves, but they also have to understand when a business compromise is in order. In most cases, the VTubers also have to be okay with spicy or parasocial marketing and the pre-existing fan culture surrounding VTuber agencies. And finally, they must be willing to sacrifice a large portion of their creative freedom and enjoyment for the furthering of their VTuber career as they grind out content for at least a year. Only people with the majority of these traits should be seeking a career in a VTuber talent agency. Truly, unless you fully grasp that you are trading a lot of the fun and freedom away in order to make this your corporate career, I recommend just staying indie for now and building your own support network instead. Agencies can be instrumental in making certain opportunities come true. They can fast track you to success and make the audience building process a lot faster. But still, I'd argue that even the good VTuber agencies aren't that good of a deal. Again, I know this is an incredibly radical opinion, but allow me to elaborate. Why I think joining a standard VTuber agency is a bad idea. Reason 1, inexperienced CEO and staff. If you are joining an agency, chances are you are signing up for a startup company run by a young, inexperienced CEO and staff team. And if you are looking to join a small or recently formed agency, get ready for abundant unprofessionalism. And yes, this is coming from someone who has worked for multiple agencies over the years. I have talked about bad actor VTuber agencies already in last month's video, so let's just focus on the startup aspect for this video. Since the majority of VTuber companies are under 4 years old, the great majority of them are still considered startups. These startup companies are not stable and have no guarantee of success. Oftentimes, startups do not turn a profit at all. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open, 45% during the first 5 years, and 65% during the first 10 years. Only 25% of new businesses make it to 15 years or more. This mirrors the VTuber agency world quite perfectly, as I have easily witnessed over half the VTuber agencies close in the first 5 years. To test this statistic with VTuber agencies, I did some research of my own. Do keep in mind that my methods aren't exactly a perfect science, since I am still relying on a search engine and I'm only able to read articles in English. My friends and I scoured the internet for as many VTuber agencies that Google, the virtual YouTuber wiki, and Twitter could give me. Together, we found 130 VTuber agencies in total. Out of our findings, 46 of the agencies were still active and 84 of them were inactive. That means only about 1/3 of them are still active, and the oldest agency on the list was founded in 2019. Keep in mind that this data point is incredibly generous, as it doesn't take into consideration all the VTuber agencies that have deleted their social media after disbanding as well. From this data, we can infer that in the first 1 to 5 years of the VTuber agency's lifespan, over 2/3 of them had to close their doors. Let that sink in. If you join an agency, they are more likely to fail in the next 5 years than succeed. And if that agency closes, all the hard work you put into the agency character, all your live streams, your covers, everything may go down with it. Are you really willing to put your heart and soul into a company with slim chances of survival? Reason number 2, VTuber agencies lack innovation. The truth is, the majority of VTuber agencies out there are painfully uncreative. Nearly every VTuber company on the block feels the same to me, from the naming scheme to the similar branding, and never willing to stray from the norm. They cling on to the same traditions of VTuber companies that were successful before them, despite said traditions not really making sense outside the company. From the practice of hiring only female VTubers, to using the same style of graphic design and naming scheme, to the same clean corporate kawaii reveal trailer. From the decision of releasing VTubers in waves of 4 to 5, PowerPoint debuts, to having every one of their VTubers sing in a group song whether they're musically inclined or not. None of these choices make sense if you aren't an idol agency in Japan. Another big mistake I see small agencies doing just to follow the established norm is having all their talent stream exclusively on YouTube as well. Streaming on YouTube makes a lot of sense for Japanese agencies because the Japanese audience does not love Twitch, and for VTubers that can get monetized quickly on YouTube, YouTube has a better pay split. However, for new agencies just starting out in the West, Twitch is much quicker to get monetization on, which is incredibly important for initially funding the agency as a whole. And even more strange to me is the fact that we still don't see many agencies utilizing both platforms by either streaming simultaneously or having a couple streams fall on Twitch to have a backup. And remember guys, dual streaming is allowed and the platform Restream is free. VTuber agencies often do not take risks with the talents they hire either. Generally, a formula has been developed with a handful of similar personalities and talents that agencies will hire. I can't exactly describe the VTuber comedy and content style, but if you spend long enough watching agency VTubers, you will notice a pattern, I'm sure. A talent that checks all the common boxes is a safer investment in the eyes of the agency rather than someone who breaks the mold. This, however, is more detrimental than beneficial in the long run because all the agency VTubers end up with content that is too similar to one another, which creates an incredibly competitive environment that really doesn't need to be that cutthroat. The VTuber market isn't oversaturated, guys. We just aren't exploring any other niche. To make matters worse, these agencies naturally crush any interesting aspects of their talents. For instance, even if a VTuber has a skill set that goes beyond the common VTuber content, typically they are expected to sideline their unique content in favor of the popular VTuber content anyways. Let's say the VTuber is known for playing a musical instrument, or does a lot of handcam streams, or plays a very specific niche of games. Their company is going to ask them to put more effort into singing lessons, streaming the latest popular game, or joining in the company's Minecraft server. They still need to switch to live streaming as their main form of content as well. Why? Just because VTubers stream nowadays, even though VTubers started as video content first. Pretty soon, that special VTuber is making content just like everyone else, and their potential is wasted. I'm sure that if you ask these agency executives why they make a lot of the decisions they do, they're just going to cite that it is industry standard. But chances are they have never fully thought through why these are industry standards, or if this so-called standard is right for their company, or if it even adapts to their home country's culture and audience at all. For example, from an English VTuber fan's perspective, I think a lot of the Japanese company practices just do not translate well to the way that English VTubers and their fans carry themselves. The reality is there aren't enough hours in the day to watch every single agency VTuber out there. If agencies spent more time finding their own unique spin on VTuber content or tried to branch into different demographics, they would have a higher chance of long-term success. The VTuber craze is over, and people are tired of watching the same thing since 2020. They're going to eventually turn back to independent creators once they get bored of the status quo, because their favorite agencies have grown complacent and stopped innovating. Reason 3, VTuber agencies are not sustainable. I have a video dedicated to this subject already, so I won't go too much in depth, but the main issue with banking your entire business model on streaming is just how intense growing and maintaining an audience can be. The majority of VTuber agencies ask you to stream a bare minimum of 3 days a week, which sounds doable until you realize just how much work is required behind the scenes before you can go live. Furthermore, think of all the side projects VTubers and agencies are expected to do, and how often they post on social media. Think of the many VTubers who work outside of their VTuber activities. Think about how little time full-time VTubers can actually take off. The current business model of VTuber agencies is totally unsustainable and a recipe for burnout. I'm not saying independent streamers don't work hard, or that indie VTubing is less work than agency VTubing. I am more so pointing out that indies can go at their own pace they set for themselves, whether that be working 3 hours a week or 60 hours a week on their channel. They can also explore a greater variety of different content to stave burnout. Most importantly, the majority of independent VTubers can take breaks and cancel streams whenever they need, with no outside permission.
But I think that's a good reason for the complaints I make, and that's that I don't want potential future VTubers to go into this thinking it's going to be easy once they make it big. Being any sort of full-time content creator is a heavily romanticized career. Everyone always talks about the upsides, and I get that, because when you compare streaming to working a normal 9 to 5, of course a job where you can get played for playing video games seems way more enjoyable. But you know the reason why playing video games is fun? It's because you don't have to do it when you're not in the mood. Once it becomes something you're obligated to do, whether it's because you have an agency contract or because you just need the income to pay rent, you have to start doing it when you'd rather be doing something else, and that makes it harder. It's work. Even if the job looks like a hobby, it doesn't mean it doesn't get hard sometimes. And that's not even starting on the parts of my job that I do off stream, which is 90% of it. Believe me, this video took me longer to make than the 5 minutes I took to record it. There's not enough talk about the downsides of this kind of job, and that's giving people a warped idea of what doing this job is like in practice. So if I'm the one who has to talk about it, I'll stand by my complaints.
Reason 4. Subpar character models. For those of you who aren't familiar with my channel, I'm known to talk about VTuber character designs a lot. The majority of these videos are very positive, with me praising the top VTuber agencies for their designs. And I still stand by my thoughts that VTuber agencies have some absolutely wonderful designs that I've had the pleasure of learning from. That is because VTuber agencies hire very capable artists who have a lot of industry experience designing for gacha games and anime. However, just because the designs are competent and pleasing doesn't mean the models are the best in the VTuber sphere. In fact, as time goes on, we see an increasingly large gap between the models top agencies put out there and independent artists with a few $100s and a dream. Independent creators are able to execute models with much more unique designs, with larger variety of concepts, and much better live 2D rigging and tracking. They are even allowed to choose between starting with 2D or 3D models depending on what suits their content better. My dearest friends Squeegee and Kato have already made videos on these exact points, so I'm gonna play a few clips from their videos here, and you can check them out down below.
So first is a category of issues I see more often than I feel like I should, which is just like general anatomical weirdness. So many models have arms that are just like entirely too short. Often it might not even be that the arms are too short, it ends up being that the pelvis is too long or the crotch is too low in the body, or the opposite, the torso is really short. Next, semi-related, is having hands and feet that are proportionally just too small for the body. Itty-bitty tiny ankles and hands on a curvy model with thick thighs will come across sorta odd. Next is a note about consistency in the body. Something I commonly see is models with their faces and bodies just like rendered in different styles. See a lot of this on models of super buff dudes where their abs and pecs and arms are rendered impeccably, but their faces really have no definition. And your face is the most important focal part, I'd argue. So keeping it consistent with your body or making it maybe slightly more detailed would usually be for the better. Fashion related things that bug me. You ask me, some VTuber fashion choices can be detrimental to having an effective design or not. So many VTubers have these sort of generic tech wear or streetwear inspired outfits nowadays. I have seen so many similar jackets with open collars and probably some belts optionally hanging off the shoulders, often with this sort of plush texture to them. There's also a lot of really similar formal adjacent suit and dress-esque designs too. I have a feeling some games like Genshin Impact have popularized these sorts of like fantasy formal wear outfits. While I think Genshin characters absolutely succeed in being the waifu or husband bait the way that they're intended and are absolutely attractive designs, their clothes don't necessarily tell a new viewer much about them. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with these fashion choices, but I really don't think they serve most of us very well as a way to show our viewers what we're about. I just want to say that I've seen a lot of missed opportunities as far as character outfits go, you know?
Maybe it's just me, because maybe I'm the problem here. Maybe I'm too focused on visuals, but in my opinion, it shows that these talents aren't being properly rewarded by the company. And no matter what company that will be, and it doesn't sit right with me. Hololive making millions in yen and Nijisanji making about the same. I really don't get why their talents walk around with models that look like they were from 3 years ago. If you look at the indies, somehow their models look more appealing, more fluent, and more bouncy. They usually commission artists and riggers out of their own pocket too, and are willing to invest for the best of quality. So if you compare male VTubers from Hololive and male indie models, their corporate ones practically give off PNG vibes. You could make the argument that it's due to bad iPhone recognition and sending the right data to Live 2D, but I also use the same technique and with my model and VBridger, and it works fine, and my model is not really that expensive. I really want to emphasize how I'm not hating on those creators and companies. I just genuinely don't get it. Since if they go just this one extra mile, they couldn't make their model even more lifelike.
Just like Squeegee said, I believe that, like Genshin characters, agency VTubers are designed with mass appeal and attractiveness in mind first and foremost. They do not prioritize uniqueness or ingenuity. And just like Kato said, the live 2D rigs these companies provide often have shockingly simple errors. They can move incredibly stiff and look behind the times in comparison to what independent VTubers can outfit themselves in. Why is this? Well, it starts with the VTuber concept. The designs themselves are well executed, but they tend to be way too safe and generic in concept. I'm not exactly sure if I've just seen too many VTuber designs that I've grown bored of the agency VTuber formula, or if these designs are genuinely as safe as I perceive them. But even so, it isn't the artist's fault, because they're not coming up with the VTuber concept. If the agency asks for a cat girl or a techwear guy, there are only so many ways that the artist can make them stand out while maintaining their mass appeal. As for the rigs being subpar, I believe this has less to do with the lack of art skill and more to do with the lack of live 2D familiarity. Oftentimes, agencies will go for big name artists over artists who have worked with live 2D before. This practice made sense in 2019 when there weren't many artists who knew how to draw in separated layers for live 2D. However, in the current age, there are literally thousands of artists in every language who are fantastic at illustrating for live 2D. Agencies could hire these more experienced live 2D artists, but I believe they see being able to hire a more industry accomplished artist as potential free advertising and a status symbol. Drawing for live 2D is a skill that needs to be honed in itself, and it is disappointing that these agencies continue to not view it as such. And if I could get really speculatory for a second, I honestly believe that the current model pipeline for most agencies is probably incredibly inefficient. It is entirely possible that the artist and the rigger of these live 2D models have no communication with each other during the model making process. Communication is incredibly important to get a good finished product in the live 2D sphere. Let's say the rigger needs a part of the model redrawn for the model to work properly. If they cannot contact the artist, then the rigger just needs to find a workaround for this issue themselves. And again, given that most of these artists have never worked with live 2D in their entire career, chances are they aren't going to draw everything perfect for rigging the first time. As for the stiffness in the rigging, I believe at least in Hololive and the other top JP agency, one of the reasons they don't have cutting edge rigging and tracking is due to their reluctance to overhaul their current tech setup. But honestly, I can see why they haven't updated their entire roster retroactively. For context, these top agencies in Japan are working with their own proprietary in-house tracking software, not VTube Studio. If these companies majorly updated their tracking and rigging, a lot of their older 2D models would potentially need to be redrawn and re-rigged to fully take advantage of the more sensitive and advanced tracking software. And for these big companies with upwards of 100 VTubers, that would be incredibly expensive. So instead, we get minor updates to the rigging of the talents who are popular enough to warrant it. Unfortunately for these top agencies, however, the technology gap only gets more apparent over time. At this point, indies have better 2D tracking software with more features for absolutely free. Minor updates to their software alone are not enough to close this gap. The incentive for joining an agency for the 2D model has become less and less tempting for adults with an income, because independent creators can be set with a 2D model with beautiful art, rigging, and tracking that is on par with, if not better than, the top agencies for around $500 to $1,500 US. Don't get me wrong, that is a lot of money, but while you save up for that money, you can find a variety of character creators, customizable VTuber models in live 2D, 3D, and PNG varieties, which all have their own strengths and weaknesses depending on what content you plan on making and how beefy your PC is. With today's community and technology, you can have a beautiful model for free that has more motion than the top agencies. Plus, as an indie, you get to pick your own character concept that suits you. If you apply for an agency, chances are you will have little to no say in your appearance or character concept. That also applies to no say in skin tone, cultural ties, or personal touches. I have talked extensively about how important it is for a VTuber concept to match a VTuber in another video of mine as well. The truth is, I've had friends join agencies and were miserable with the character concept they were given, but had no other choice but to keep rolling with it until their contract expired. If you aren't interested in playing a character that doesn't completely match your nature, you may have a bad time in an agency. Between inexperienced live 2D artists, overly safe concepts, poor tracking, and no say in your identity, agency VTuber models are a complete roulette of what you get, and thus you could be contractually stuck with a character model that you hate. There are VTuber agencies that let you have a say in your appearance, which I'm very happy about. I hope that that becomes the norm in the industry so that everyone can properly represent themselves during their time in a VTuber agency. Reason 5. Gender segregation in agencies and parasocial marketing. Once again, I have talked about this extensively in other videos, so I will not go into too much depth, but the main reason why I would not join a VTuber agency ever is the parasocial marketing that the VTuber industry has borrowed from the idol industry. Segregating the talents between male and female, or only hiring females to begin with, seems to be the industry standard in VTubing even today. It also means that very talented and qualified male VTubers get overlooked for opportunities constantly. Even if it isn't strictly forbidden by an agency, disclosing if you have a significant other in the VTuber industry is frowned upon by fans and staff alike. So why is it still like this in VTuber agencies in 2024? Honestly, it's due to the status quo of romantic and parasocial marketing at play. There's no denying it. Oftentimes, the most successful agency VTubers are GFE or BFE content creators. This sets a precedent of an expectation for VTuber audiences. They expect a VTuber character who is romantically available more so in the agency VTuber sphere than the independent VTuber sphere. This puts a heavy pressure on agency VTubers to conform to this marketable waifu or husbando personality, and often marketing of the agency does not help with this perception either. For some creators, this is where they thrive content-wise, but for many, like myself, it makes us feel limited or uncomfortable. Even just audience sharing with an agency that has a very parasocial brand can influence how your fan base treats you as a whole. Because these fans who are interested in romantic parasocial content are very used to being catered to, they will attack any agency VTuber who strays from the norm, such as harassing them for collabing with the opposite sex or having an unknown voice or message appear on their stream. Considering that many VTubers and agencies are young and easily impressionable, their demanding fan base and even management team can pressure them into doing certain things or acting a certain way that they wouldn't normally decide for themselves. This can lead to a lot of regret later down the road. VTubers working for agencies are in a very tough position, similar to when a customer service worker is flirted with on the clock. These VTubers have to be kind to the audience while live. They cannot verbally retaliate against their audience because they are inclined to keep a professional image. They are on the clock, so to speak. They are not just representing themselves in this case, but the entire VTuber agency's brand. But at the same time, the agency doesn't want to ban these romantically parasocial fans because they are the whales, the ones donating the most money to their agencies. Oftentimes, I've noticed agencies just like to sit back while their talents have to handle the creepy fans and the mental repercussions of that all on their own. These audience members will often take advantage of the fact that the VTuber has to be kind to everyone while live and use that as an excuse to act any way they want towards these poor men and women who are just trying to do their jobs. I find it very interesting to watch what happens when an agency VTuber goes indie. A lot of them change up the way they handle their audience and set better boundaries. Some of them do keep up with the romantic parasocial marketing, while others drop it completely and do their own thing.
Shipping and art rules. I honestly have not thought as much about this, but for shipping rules, I personally don't care about who you ship me with most of the times, as long as it doesn't take over like their stream and my stream. Like I'm kidding. I'm kidding about the fan art part. You can join us as a group. I don't care as much about you putting shipping art of me with someone on just my general art tag. If it does get out of hand where it's like all me and this one person, I might add, or me and this person, or I just might be like, hey, you know, put the art of me on the ship tag and not on my general tag. But for now, yeah. And also I would not ship me with other female livers in Niji. Peace. So there are a few rules, pretty much like, okay guys, I'm gonna be honest, like most of them boils down to like, don't be stupid, you know. I do want to add some new, listen, my Fujoshi sisters, okay, y'all need to chill the out, because shipping, no. All right, don't ship me with anyone, okay? I've just had really bad experiences with that in the past. There's literally no pros for me. It's all cons, okay? I had people shipping me because of my real life health condition with people's lore and saying they could fix me. Too comfortable? No shipping.
The nice thing about being an independent VTuber supporter is that you can be assured that the choice of whether to include romantic appeal in their branding is 100% up to the streamer. That's what really matters at the end of the day to me. When a VTuber is able to make the type of content they want to make, that's when they can truly thrive. Reason number 6, restrictions galore.
変わらず終わってたわあいつは変わらずラインを超超えてった尖ってたね多分もう昔の4期がデビューしたぐらいのゆるいホロライブならまだいけたかもしれないけど今の結構やることが限られているホロライブの中でここは身長もあり窮屈なんじゃないかなっていう風にすら思った
Agency VTubers will spend a lot of their offline time asking permissions to do anything they want to do. After all, their content is the agency's, not theirs. So every game they want to play, song they cover, artist they commission, or VTuber they collaborate with, all of it needs to be approved by the management. Same goes for any schedule they make and any break they want to take. And a lot of the time, they are going to be told no for one reason or another. When it comes to games and song covers, it's harder to get permissions as a corporate entity. From my understanding, Japan has different laws on fair use, and as such, agencies are often waiting to hear back from the copyright holding companies for the ability to do pretty much anything. What about the non-copyright permission rejections then? Oftentimes, management just won't see the benefit of allowing a talent to do something, and will reject a request for a simple or even petty reason. It could be a talent's chance of a lifetime, their dream sponsor, a collaboration or record deal, but at the end of the day, it is not the talent's decision if they accept, because the agency owns them and their branding.
How do I put it? There was a really big opportunity that was given to me, or rather, I don't know, asked of me, or offered to me. And I get why it wasn't accepted, but it's really frustrating that things weren't negotiated or anything. It was just flat out no.
A lot of agency VTubers who used to work for agencies have become indie lately, and it's been a joy seeing them make the content that they want to make and stream the games they want to stream.
You know what we can finally do? A members Minecraft server. I can finally do it! And Garfield cart! They can't say no if I never asked. Because North America fair use laws. Let's go. What's that word called? Where if you have enough, like, you put enough of your commentary. There's a word. Is it still fair use? Where you put enough of your commentary, like it's like your work. Oh my god, the best part. Freddy Fish can't say no. Creative Commons! Transformative! This is transformative work. Alright, sorry, the first joke was like, oh my, let me ask for... Oh, we don't have to anymore. Oh my god. I'm an indie.
I will admit, it is bittersweet getting to see them enjoy their newfound freedom. Reason number 7. And speaking of many VTubers who used to work for agencies who have now gone indie, a lot of VTubers are leaving agencies in a lot of financial trouble.
I was in a really bad situation in regards to taxes. I still kind of am. But I was so up, right? There was around like 350k in tax worth that I need to take care of. And basically, I really didn't know what to do. In my current situation that I was in at the time, I wasn't really offered any support about it.
Some of them have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their VTubing career, even if they were supported by the top agency in the world.
Nggak ada rencana beli rumah, Muna lagi nabung sih. Tapi setiap Muna mau nabung, uangnya kepake terus buat bayar project. Karena kan kalau project-project ya, cover song, terutama cover song ya, itu kan Muna bayar sendiri. Kalau cover song itu Muna bayar sendiri, instrumentalnya, recordingnya, mixingnya, ilustrasinya, animasinya semuanya Muna bayar sendiri. Jadi kebanyakan uang Muna itu kayak kebanyakan di situ sih. Cover bisa balik modal? Enggak lah. Cover nggak bisa dimonetasi videonya. Ada yang bisa, ada yang enggak. Remember the last time I said about the original song? How much is it? After talking, it costs so much. It costs so much. The cost is just like when you rent a room for like 1 year. It's the cost of like one original song. Only the song, without the MV, without the illustrator. Itu tuh bisa kena 70. It's so pricey to be a singer. Cost that much? Yeah, one original song costs that much. But you know, thanks to Yago. Yago paid me free original song for me, but I have to pay the MV by myself. So if I want to make a music video, I have to use it with my own pocket, which costs around that much, even more.
My mom scolded me about this because during all of this, she looked at my financials and I made 0 profit last year. She was like, you have to spend less because you spent $200,000 last year. And I was like, that hurt. Oh, that hurt. It just blew my mind. I couldn't believe those were my expenses.
It turns out that a lot of amazing and polished music videos, the artwork, the lore videos, and the animations we see coming out of top agencies still get paid out of pocket by the talents, not the agencies. Yes, even the best agencies in the world do this. I initially assumed that being in an agency meant you had everything set and paid for, but that is far from the case. It's really sad to see that talents in VTuber agencies have so many financial troubles considering how generous and amazing the VTuber fans are. Unfortunately, in addition to having to pay for many of the projects themselves, these VTubers are not getting the pay split their fans would want for them. You would be surprised just how many agency VTubers see less than half of what their fans give them, even in multi-million-dollar agencies that are doing well financially. Reason 8, not owning your own content. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Agency VTubers are banking their whole career on an outside company's brand. In order to be an agency VTuber, you must be okay with not owning anything you did and losing all of your content at once. For those unfamiliar, the majority of VTuber agencies out there currently include in their contracts that the company owns all the content you make with them. Streams, original music, cover songs, stories, you name it. Every piece of content you execute under the agency belongs to them. The agency will also oftentimes take ownership of your VTuber character, whether they provided it to you or it is your own original IP. Some agencies allow their talents to buy out their own IP from the company, but that is only if the talent is leaving the agency on good terms, and these agencies often value the IP at a very high price. If a VTuber is terminated from the VTuber agency while the agency has ownership of their original character, that VTuber can kiss their own persona and entire YouTube channel goodbye for the majority of cases. Whenever a longtime agency VTuber gets terminated from an agency, whether that be for a baseball joke, disobeying management, or a legitimate breach in contract, even if I'm not well acquainted with their content, even if I'm not too keen on their personality, I mourn over the thousands of hours of creative work that is now gone. I mourn over the hard work that the model artists and riggers put into their models, and the MVs that took months for songwriters, producers, mixers, and animators to put together. The thousands of hours of live stream VODs that are now suddenly lost media. As a fan, it is heart-wrenching to see these VTubers you supported for years and thoroughly enjoyed watching the content of suddenly be deleted off the face of the earth and either never return or start over completely. Reason number 9, wearing a mask. When a VTuber is hired into an agency, there are few expectations set up for them. Like an idol or celebrity, this VTuber is expected to embody the brand that they were given by the agency through every public interaction and live stream. This means they both embrace the character they were assigned to and also adopt the vision of the entire agency as a whole. Oftentimes that includes showing the world that they are friendly with all their coworkers, no matter what happens behind the scenes between the agency VTubers or staff. Jealousy, difference in opinion, bullying, and a general discordance among agency VTubers are expected to stay in private. These VTubers may even be expected to collaborate regularly with VTubers they don't work well with. Generally, we all have to work with coworkers we don't like at any kind of job, but the main difference between having to work alongside someone at a typical job and a VTuber agency is that each of the talents on stream must act like good friends in front of a live audience of thousands. To be able to improvise a friendly conversation on a live stream for hours on end with someone you dislike would take it out of just about anyone. The professional image expected of agency VTubers is something I know I personally could never maintain. The great majority of us are not cut out for wearing such a heavy mask. I genuinely believe that many have gotten their passion for creation ruined by VTuber agencies by having to constantly act a certain way, censor themselves, and stick to their assigned area of content. Between being forced to stay in their niche, being expected to be uncontroversial and happy-go-lucky on the outside, while something upsetting is going on behind the scenes, will break a lot of people.
I really love the people in that group. It sucked so much to be backstabbed by so many of them when I did so much behind the scenes for them, and I did so much to show them that I loved them and that I cared, you know? And I learned how a lot of analytics and things worked, and I taught them a lot of what I knew, and not a single person could say something nice. They were allowed to at least not talk. I saw her in person and became friends with her in private. I went out of my way to meet up and teach her secrets and tell her things before the debut. I saw her as one of my best friends. And it just feels like, no matter what I do, it really doesn't matter. But the last thing I did leave them with was saying that they were worth more than they thought they were. A lot of them thought they were nothing outside of that place. And I was like, no, you are so wrong. You guys are worth so much more than you think you are, and that company is going to make you think you are. And I hated seeing them think that they were nothing.
I know no worse feeling as a VTuber than being trapped in a bad company, but having no way to warn others from joining said agency due to an NDA barring me from talking about my own experiences. Reason number 10, agencies are only useful up until a point. At the high level of professional VTuber agencies, there are only 2 ways VTuber agencies can keep their talents. They can either create enough value compared to being an independent creator for every talent so that they continue to stay with the agency, or they can trap their talents in predatory contracts so that they cannot leave. But why do agencies feel the need to lock their talents into predatory contracts to keep them around? I believe that it's due to the fact that the majority of agencies cannot keep their talents around naturally. The main appeal of a VTuber agency for the majority of creators looking to join them is because of discoverability. Getting discovered as a creator is tough, confusing, and partially due to random chance. It can take someone anywhere from a week to decades of constant content creation to get discovered by an audience. Unfortunately, until you get discovered, content creation is simply harder. It is harder to make connections with other creators and any potential sponsorships simply because you are perceived as less valuable of a partnership due to the lack of eyes on your content. Even more frustrating is that discoverability has a bit of a snowball effect. It seems to me that it is harder to gain your first 1,000 followers than it is to gain your second 100,000 followers if your channel is gaining traction. This is where the benefit of agencies come in. Agencies with large followings can get you discovered on day one simply by adding you to their established brand and hyping up your debut. These agencies can hand a creator access to many more eyes than they could ever get on their own, especially if the creator in question doesn't have access to a ton of extra spare advertisement money laying around. The best agencies will consistently advertise their talents and have them involved in new projects to continue their relevance for years to come. They do this through providing creator support, analytic insight, management, clip editing, and reaching out to sponsors to build bridges. However, even if an agency is excellent at creating value for the talent, there comes a point where the VTuber has amassed a large enough following and has a large enough income that it no longer makes sense financially or creatively to stay with the agency. Let's say, for the sake of example, that an agency VTuber has a 50-50 split on their channel revenue with their agency. Back when they had an income of $500 a month, that was only giving the agency $250. But now that they are more established, that same creator has an income of $30,000 a month, which means that they must give a whopping $15,000 to their agency. That is to say, the larger the income, the harder it is to justify giving the agency that amount for the same exact services. And what about freedom? The established agency VTuber now has a large enough income that they could potentially hire their own team and be their own boss if they went independent. No more restrictions or waiting for permission to do things. No more wearing a mask or being beholden to someone else's content demands. As an indie with an audience and capital, they can have a character and channel tailored to them, their tastes, and their own interests. They can collaborate with whomever they want, buy as many models as they want, share as much or as little of themselves with their audience as they want, set their own boundaries, and work at their own pace, all without living in fear of breaking a contract. This is why I say agencies are only beneficial up until a certain point. The main appeal of an agency is that initial boost of discoverability and resources at your fingertips. Once a talent can afford those things themselves, however, agencies are automatically a lot less appealing to stay with. This section could potentially get outdated, so bear with me, but I believe VShojo grew to understand this over time. In order to keep their roster of high caliber talents, they more or less stay out of their own talents' way and only work to support the talents more behind the scenes. The talents keep their intellectual property and character, and they can fund whatever projects they deem personally important. VShojo's role in this is to help their VTubers in the legal department and form connections, as well as facilitating the bigger projects. According to my research, VShojo doesn't even take a cut from their streamers' donations, because they understand that it is not beneficial to do so in the long run. VShojo came to understand over time that offering only support and not restricting their talents would encourage their talents to stay with them even as they continually pass milestones. There is a trade-off to this, of course. VShojo does not have the cleanest track record when it comes to staying out of controversy, but nowadays it is because of their talents' freedom to be themselves and express their own opinions that leads to the majority of these controversies. Then again, one could argue that VShojo's business model may not work outside of itself, and there are definitely trade-offs to the way it works as well. Nonetheless, the way I see it, unless even the best agencies are willing to adapt their entire business model from the ground up, agencies will continue to lose talents left and right and face closure the moment their VTubers have acquired a strong and loyal fan base. And keep in mind that there are only a handful of agencies that have an established fan base and a good reputation at all. The vast majority of agencies out there are not even close to that amount of support. But it must be restated that joining an agency is a huge risk because the great majority of these VTuber agencies are predatory. It's hard to admit that something you like has dark aspects. It doesn't mean you have to stop liking it, and it doesn't mean that you are a bad person for liking something with a dark side to it. I still love video games and anime, but I also acknowledge the unfair working conditions that studios often force their creators under. As someone who has VTuber industry experience, I genuinely want the sphere to improve. I want there to be more actual good opportunities for the career-focused VTubers, even if I myself am not one. But for now, all I can really say is staying in indie is the slower yet steadier way to guarantee your success. That is, unless the VTuber agency industry has a major overhaul and becomes genuinely sustainable and talent first. My good friend Shogmami shared with me this little quip of wisdom. Entertainment as an industry is predatory by default. No one will change my mind about that. The product is people, thus it will always be predatory. And I wholeheartedly agree with her. Just like the music, acting, and idol industries, as long as young and naive creators are willing to join crummy agencies with bad terms, bad VTuber agencies will continue to exist. Why are so many creators still eager to join agencies, even the bad ones? I ask myself this a lot. I personally believe it's due to not everyone knowing about just how bad the industry can be. There are so many new content creators every day. How can we expect them to understand all the VTuber agency related controversies that predate their time in the VTuber sphere? Another thing I think that contributes to so many VTubers wanting to join agencies is the fact that young creators tend to lack the following things: patience, content creation experience, networking skills, and the knowledge of how to form support networks and creator groups themselves. And though I cannot help with the first one, I'm going to do my best to share my insights on how I have learned to navigate the intricacies of content creation with the goal of growing a community and network. But unfortunately, I cannot fit anything else into this upload, so instead I will have a Google document linked with a guide on how to network as a VTuber. I will also be going over this guide in a live stream immediately after this video premieres, so you can find that VOD linked in the description of this video. In conclusion, with today's technology, you do not need to join an agency to be a successful VTuber. As the VTuber sphere continues to change and evolve, I believe VTuber agencies and the VTuber corporate industry as a whole need to change in a major way if they want to keep their talents around, because the majority of agencies cannot compete what being an indie VTuber with a support network can offer. The truth is, a very small fraction of creators would even benefit from the agency VTuber model, and there's even a smaller fraction of VTuber agencies that are worth any creator's time. Even larger agencies that actually do create value for their talents like Hololive and VShojo are still not for every content creator, and that is completely okay. I encourage the audience watching today to demand better conditions from the industry, learn how to scrutinize agency VTuber business practices, and support the good agencies as well as the good VTuber groups. Support indie creators whenever you can. And to the indie VTubers watching, if you are like 90% of creators, you do not need to be in a VTuber agency to be successful. Instead, focus on building a backlog of content, hone your networking skills, and form your own private and public support networks. If you ever blow up, look into hiring your own team like the majority of YouTubers outside of VTubing do. I honestly believe you will benefit more from staying independent in the long run. But what do you think, Bat Bunch? How do you feel about VTuber agencies in 2024? How can the industry change for the better? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember to be kind to others, and as always, take care, Bat Bunch.